We're going to move on to some just sort of general industry news. It's tiresome and sad to continue to talk about layoffs happening in the game industry, and you keep hoping that we don't have to keep talking about it, but we're going to keep talking about it because it keeps happening. So a bunch of layoffs have happened at Warner Brothers Games and the Montreal studio, which I think they were involved in the Suicide Squad game, I believe, and I guess that support is dwindling for that or winding down. So that's probably what's happening over there. And I think we didn't talk about this last week, but there were some layoffs over at Deck 9 recently, which they had already had layoffs around a while back that we talked about. So this is, a second round happening there within.
A friend of mine was let go from there. Yeah.
So that's obviously a bummer to keep hearing this. And then, on the other side of things, I guess a little bit, there's been another union formed at another Microsoft-owned studio, ZeniMax in particular. It sounds like it's the Elder Scrolls Online team that has formed a union that has been recognized by Microsoft. And I don't know exactly where they are in that process, but I know they've voted to unionize at least, right?
Well, yeah, if they recognize, then it's kind of now in the negotiation phase of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know you guys had some of that over at Ziff Davis as well, Peer.
Yeah, there are a couple of content unions.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely wish them a lot of luck. Yeah, I don't know exactly when this is going to end, right? I mean, I think that it doesn't seem like we're necessarily on the up and up yet. I know, like in the, I work in animation and in production, and it's like, the chants of survive till 25 have been going throughout Hollywood and throughout the animation industries for a long time. But I don't know how much that moves over to the games industry, because it's not just developers, and I'm sure about this as well. Ziff Davis and Humble and all of you guys have been dealing with a lot of this. What's like the vibe that in the room as far as like when this might be turning around?
Yeah, I mean, lots of things have happened, right? Coming out of the pandemic boosted video games to a crazy degree, right? Everybody stayed at home. If you just look at Animal Crossing was this phenomenon where the game just sold through the roof. But more importantly, people spend record hours inside that game and then spend record hours on websites like IGN, where you could track your butterflies and your fish and all of that you could catch, right? And so that sort of, when that bubble burst and people went back to their normal lives and started to do normal things again, driving to work, some people never went back, but most people resumed, something that resembled their pre-pandemic lives. Suddenly these companies felt a little bloated. I think many of them self-identified as saying, we have too many people creating, and the cost for development is now so high, we can't possibly afford to keep going like this. And so there was definitely this sort of fallout from it. And then many of them also placed bets on certain genres that had grown up, like take Fortnite, right? Fortnite was such a monolith, just like Minecraft and Animal Crossing. This monumental game came out, and then every publisher said, we need one of those. And they all started working on it, which is very, very costly. And then at the end, something comes out that just can't recuperate. Like, it can't recoup the money that they invested, and that has this big impact. So
it's lots of different things. 7 years too late by the time it finally comes out, right?
And honestly, I mean, the consumer interest in some of those genres may also be fickle, or they may be completely happy playing Fortnite every week because Fortnite changes all the time, right? And so this sort of thought that a publisher had 4 years ago saying, we can do that too, and we have all this great IP and we can mix them up just like Fortnite, and then gamers go, well, I have Fortnite. And so there's this fallout from that. We're seeing a resurgence of single player games, a lot of push for those. But even those, the entire economy has changed. You can now subscribe to PS Plus and Game Pass and get some of those games and not spend the dollars that you would have spent. There's pushback on monetization with DLC and season passes. The pre-order setup. Companies used to get money way in advance for their games because people pre-ordered the physical copies, right? All of that is disrupted now. And I think the industry just has to find its way through that and figure out what is the right investment, what's the right size, what's the right mix of games and genres that we're producing, and what do we do with online enabled games, and how do we actually run them? And then in media, it's a similar story. How many people do you have creating what types of content? The sort of social bubble burst a bit, right? We used to make money on X. We don't make money on X anymore. It used to be called Twitter and made money. Facebook was this big bubble. And so all of these things you just have to adjust to, and you have to figure out new paths forward. And now AI is knocking at the doors, right? Just for the record, we don't use AI at IGN to generate content, but there are websites that just crawl our site and they rewrite stories we've already written, or they rewrite entire strategy guides. And that's really disruptive and dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Google just giving you an answer to a question instead of sending you to a website.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
I got to react to all of
I
that.
And
hate
it's still aggregated. Do you still like how many times I scroll down a little bit further and see that whatever that AI garbage gave me is still not actually what I wanted to see.
No, and it's obviously it's not great, right? But eventually robots are going to be smarter than humans, and so right now it might give you the wrong answer, and you're disappointed, and you scroll down and you go to IGN or discover your podcast. But AI is creating podcasts that sound like real humans, right?
Yeah.
And it does it's like populism at its best, where it scours the internet and creates just the right podcast for you with just the right fake people. It's kind of scary.
That is dystopic. Yeah. I don't know. I agree. I mean, I do think that AI is an existential threat to so many different industries, but that's an entirely different topic for a different show.
I know. It's my job right now. I'm working on that project.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
I'm
bet.
sure.
How to defend against it and how to figure that out.
I mean, we are too, I mean, that's like, there's a big, the Animation Guild is like voting on whether or not to accept the current, because it's going to be another 4 years until they can do another contract. And who knows what AI is going to look like in 4 years, So it's like, there's a lot of pushback on that at the moment. I do agree with you about how this kind of happened from the COVID bubble. I mean, the streamers were the same way, when you're looking at, Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon, and they all just grew and grew and grew and started hiring more and more people. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, all our profits are dropping. We got to let everybody go.
We can't watch. I mean, a human cannot watch all the content Netflix outputs on a weekly basis. It's just not possible. Right?
And there's like a ceiling, I think, as well, to the number of people that are going to subscribe to something like that in the first place. And I think it was hit and it's going down. So I don't know. I am a little hopeful. I mean, I definitely see this pattern in myself, and I see it in some of my friends too, but I think a lot of people are going back to, even in a digital world, of bespoke purchases as opposed to staying with a subscription service. Like, I know a lot of people just are not using Game Pass anymore, or let their Game Pass subscriptions lapse. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but it's like, I know I personally much prefer to be able to know that I'll have the game for as long as I have a Steam account or whatever, right? And like, and stuff like that. And then even like buying, physical, records and movies and stuff. I'm seeing an uptick of that with this new generation. Like, I think they like yearn for like to be able to hold on to anything in their godforsaken lives. So hopefully that's kind of the cycle that we see kind of happening again, and get a lot more people out there actually making the content that we love to see.
I feel like Nintendo was on this path to create the virtual console where they were kind of building this huge asset of all the games that you could download at any point in time and play them, and then they just hit reset on it and they all went away.
That's a really good point.
I booted up Metroid Prime 3 the other week, and like there's no easy way to play that game anymore, right? You have to have a Wii or Wii U to run it on, and you have to have the bar above your TV and the controllers for it. And Metroid Prime 2, you wouldn't need all those fancy controllers, but it's not accessible anywhere unless you go back to old hardware. And by the way, the physical copy for the Metroid Prime trilogy costs you like $200, right?
That's true.
And so something's got to happen. It's, I'm worried that we're losing access to some games, and that some of those may be lost permanently.
Yeah, the great internet reset will happen, and we'll all come crawling out of our caves and
hopefully not. No, let's not do
anymore.
that one. No, I'm hopeful too. I've seen it before, right? We've had a huge crash in 2000, 2001 when advertisers went back to print and television. And, the company I worked for went from hundreds of employees to dozens. And it rebounded and people flocked to the website and it grew. So I'm hopeful.